Sometimes people celebrate a country. Maybe they believe that country is better than other countries. What is the idea of a country but a separation thought? A line somebody drew on a map. You see a lot of national flags wherever you go. People celebrate the country that they appear to be in, or maybe the one that they were in before the one they're in now. Imagine song, imagine there's no countries. What's that? That's the thought. What if there were no lines on a map? What if there were no lines in your mind? There's a great line after that in the song. It says, "It's easy if you try." Oh, it's easy if you try. Yeah, it is actually. It's actually easier to be in a state without borders, without limits, than to believe in limits and separation and division. You could give that John Lennon line to Jesus. It's easy if you try. And we talk actually a lot about how forgiveness can be simple. The steps of practicing it are simple, but they're not necessarily easy. But every now and then the Course, Jesus says it's easy too. Because from the right-minded perspective, it actually is easy. It's the part of us that's not there yet that says, no, this is not easy. But every time we've experienced that shift and we look back, we're often, maybe almost all the time, we say, wow, why was that so hard for me? Why did I struggle so much with that? Why? Because you've let it go. You've let that old way of thinking go, and it just doesn't seem to make sense. It doesn't fit. There's no need for struggle when you've released it. It seemed to be a big deal, but now it's not. And in fact, it never was, but when you're in it, you don't know that. It's easy if you try. It could be like a rousing way to remember to keep practicing. How do you do A Course in Miracles? It's easy if you try. It's hard when you don't try. It's actually very hard. When you decided forgiveness doesn't work, or it doesn't work for me, I've heard that maybe. Other people seem to get it, but I don't. It's easy for other people if they try, but I don't know. It's not easy here. But again, we want to keep going. Perseverance. We want to persevere through our resistance. We don't want to fight our resistance, but we want to be steady. Just like I was driving, the furniture was bouncing around a little in the car, and didn't want it to bounce too hard. So I'm steady in the car, steady on the trail. Doesn't mean there aren't bumps. There's bumps in the road, but we can be steady. You know what? Everything got back. It's all in good shape. It all worked out. There's this sort of good feeling. It's like there were some things we needed here, and we got them today, and it was like, okay, it feels good. We're getting what's required. We're getting what is needed. So that just sort of begs the question, what is needed? What is needed within the mind? How can I get what my mind needs? Well, we have to try. We have to try. And even if it doesn't feel easy, we have to try. Not in a striving way, but in a persistent way, in a dedicated way, in a way that we want to stick with it. Is it going to feel hard at times? Of course. The ego doesn't want to stop being the ego. That's what's at stake here. It's the end of the ego. Ego doesn't like that. But we have to remember the ego is not some malevolent force beyond us. It's actually just a mistaken thought within our own mind. So we're not actually at the mercy of the vicious ego. We're just living through a mistaken thought in the mind. And it's great, right? We're already starting to think about the retreat for David Hoffmeister when he's coming here in October. And we have a theme for it already, which is do not see error. Do not see error. Well, a lot of the times we're seeing error, we're perceiving that there's something real that's wrong. It's bad, and it's probably happening to me. That's the worst part. But we can be gentle with it. We can be gentle with the fear that comes up and the waves of upset. But again, we have to come back to what is this all about? We have to remember that there's something here that we want to experience. We want to experience complete peace of mind. We want to stay steady on the trail, on the path. So how do we handle when the ego does seem to get really intense with us? How do we handle that? And the ego seems to knock us off the path. Well, we can remember that even that is a part of our healing. It's not really some devastating, awful thing that is unfolding. It's an opportunity for remembering what we want. It's an opportunity to come back to our right mind. We could even be a little playful with it. Like, oh, ego, you thought you were going to get me with that one. And maybe you seemed to for a few minutes, but now I'm on to you. Now I want to come back to my right mind. I want to feel the peace. I want to remember what's true. I want to let the storm move through rather than just getting swept away by it. Sometimes when there's like some big, really strong storm, there's like some crazy reporter who goes out to like where the storm is coming in and he wants to like show the intensity, you know. I always kind of make fun of this person, usually a guy, is going out and doing this. But on a metaphysical level, he's got the right idea. He's heading towards the storm. He wants to go to what's going on. He wants to go and see that intensity, and let it move through, let it pass over him. And that's what we want to do with our emotional storms. To we want to allow them. We want to actually welcome them to move through. Why? Because if we keep avoiding them, if we keep trying to navigate around them rather than allowing them, then we're just going to postpone the actual healing. But even with this, we want to be gentle. We don't need to seek out the most intense places. But if we see that a storm is coming our way, We want to be open. We want to be open to whatever it shows us, whatever opens up in our mind, whatever is seen when we look at it, whatever depth of sadness or anger, or fear is there. Let it wash over us. Let it be like the storm coming for that seemingly crazy weatherman. Why? Because the storm is going to wear itself out. The storm is going to wind down. And when we've really been with it, when we've really allowed it to come up fully, when it moves through, it's actually amazing to feel the relief and the release from having borne witness to that shadow place within the mind. And we don't have to judge how big or how little of a storm it is. If it's a minor upset that we face and we allow and we release, beautiful. Beautiful. Maybe we got a little hangnail or a cut on our hand, and we allow the feeling of it. We don't just pretend it didn't happen or ignore it or just sort of feel sorry for yourself, but to really allow that feeling, to really allow a quote unquote small issue like that is beautiful. It's a major success. It's just as important as allowing a huge storm of emotion. And we know that's true because every healing benefits our peace of mind. So we can welcome the little tiny rain cloud that just drops a few drops of water and moves on, just as much as we can welcome the sort of raging, intense, hurricane level emotional storms too. As Jesus says, there are no small upsets. They are all equally disturbing to my peace of mind. So again, it's like we just start to welcome it all more and more and more. We see a storm coming. Sure, maybe we get out the rain slicker, Well, we put the hat on, our galoshes on, or whatever. We can be mentally ready in whatever way is helpful. But it's really just about knowing that we're not alone in whatever the storm is, whether it's the few drops of rain or whether it's the real, you know, buckets full coming down. When we do it with Holy Spirit, when we do it with Jesus, when we allow those feelings and know that we're not alone in that moment, that's the healing. Jesus says, together we have the lamp that will dispel the darkness. Together. The darkness is in believing that you're separated, that you're isolated, that you're alone. But when you invite Jesus in to those places, those dark spots within, you are not alone. And you start to get more and more that you've never really been alone. The times you thought you were alone, it's like when a little kid who's maybe upset pulls a blanket over their head, pretends they're all alone, even if loving parents are right there with them. Jesus is never absent from us. But in those dark times, we've pulled the blanket over our eyes. We don't know. We don't maybe feel like we're experiencing that togetherness. But Jesus is never absent. God is never absent. If you're feeling like they are, it's because a part of you's closed the door. But that's just a mistaken choice that can be made again. We can make a new choice in this moment. What do I want right now? I want to feel that love. I want to feel that connection. Beautiful. And if you think that, but then you don't quite feel it, it just means there's something more to move through. If you don't feel like you're back in the connection and the flow yet, then just know, okay, well, I want to clear whatever's in my mind that's preventing me from feeling peace. And that prayer will bring it up for you to see. Maybe it brings it up right away. Sometimes you make that prayer and all of a sudden you know what it is. Oh, I know what's upsetting me. I know what's heavy on my heart. And then again, invite Jesus in. Hey, Jesus, I've got something to look at with you. You have a second? He always says yes. Always says yes. I have some heaviness in my heart. Will you hold space with me while it moves through? 100% of the time, he's there. And sometimes we ask for it to clear and we don't feel it come up right in that moment. But we can be certain that our prayer will be answered. Prayer for it to show itself so we can heal is inevitably answered with 100% certainty. There's nothing that seems to be an obstacle to the peace of God that will not wash away. Nothing. And we can take that certainty with us. We can take this with us because when it feels dark, when the storm is raging, we might not be feeling that certain. But we can remember it even then. Holy Spirit, you said you would never leave me. Please reveal yourself to me now. Help me to see what is between you and my awareness of you. I want to feel the endless love of God in this moment. Help me to know it. Help me to know you, God. Sometimes you can just pray right to God. I mean, that's how deep this desire to know our oneness is. And what's that going to do? Well, it's going to bring up the fears. It's going to bring up the angers. It's going to bring up the judgments. It's going to bring up everything in the mind that still seems to be a block to the truth. And we started off by talking about letting all the walls in the mind fall. Well, that's what this is. We have to let every wall in the mind fall. Every bit of fear show up and clear. Every bit of sadness move through our tears. Sometimes when people start getting in touch with their sadness, they're like, I don't think I can let myself feel this. I don't think it's ever going to end. I don't think it's ever going to end. I'm just going to cry forever. I mean, I've heard these words. Well, I don't know anyone it's lasted forever in, but it feels that way. When the emotions start to come, the depth is so deep, the sadness is so strong. But again, just to keep remembering, even in those places, you're not alone. You're not abandoned to your feelings. They can be really, really felt. They can be deeply, deeply allowed. Even if the ocean of tears feels like it's miles and miles deep, we can just sit there, their loving, helpful brother, watch them melt away, watch them move through. I've heard a lot of people talk about how they cried every day for years. Years. And that's a lot of crying. But that's how it moves through oftentimes. And that's all right. It's actually all right to cry every day for years. If you're doing your best just to hand it over, allowing it, witnessing it. because eventually that ocean of tears is going to move down to a pond of tears. And then it's just going to be tears that move through when the storms come through. But when those tears are used for healing, it's like a sacred gift to allow that, to offer that sadness to spirit. Sometimes we don't even know why we're crying. I don't know why I'm so sad, but I'm fully open to letting it just be here, to be in me. When I was a kid, sometimes we'd watch professional wrestling, and they had an event called No Holds Barred. It was like, oh, it's going to get crazy. But I sometimes think of that around our emotions, like no emotions barred, no feelings are blocked or disallowed. We can feel every feeling. Doesn't matter what it looks like. It doesn't matter how it feels as it's being felt. No emotion is barred from being allowed. In those wrestling matches, the no holds barred one, they wouldn't have referees. They wouldn't have someone keeping things in line, which kind of makes you think, who is the referee in your mind? It's deciding this emotion is all right. This one, no, no, you can't have that one. And then you get to think, who's paying this guy? Who hired this guy? In my mind, why do I have him? uh, is he really helping you? Probably not so helpful. But for some people, that feels really bold. Could I really let myself live without a referee, an emotional, limiter in my mind, in my experience? Wouldn't that be too much? Wouldn't I be too transparent? Hmm. Yeah, I don't know if that makes a whole lot of sense to me. But I think oftentimes we have these rules, maybe because we've had times where we've expressed ourselves and haven't been honored. I think that is just an encouragement to surround ourselves with people who will allow all of who we are. And of course, we can still be prayerful and discerning if emotions come up. And, it's not always the right time or the right person to share those things with. But when there is time, we have that loving guide within who is 100% available. And who cheers us on every step we take. It takes courage, right? I think a lot of professional wrestling was kind of fake when I was a kid and probably still is. But if you think about it in a real way, it would take a certain amount of courage to get into a no holds barred wrestling match. It would take a certain amount of courage to get in that wrestling ring. Well, it takes a certain amount of courage to fire our own inner emotion referees, to let ourselves come into a place where we don't hold ourselves back, we don't box our emotions in, we don't keep them packed away in the closet for I'll look at that later, or I don't ever want to look at that one maybe. But we can't actually throw our emotions out. They just sort of get stuck until we go and open the box up. And if it's a kind of emotion we've been holding back and hiding for a long time, it can be pretty intense when we open that box. It can come out in a very strong way. And even that is all right. One important part. If we remember we're opening our emotional boxes because we want to heal whatever is inside, it's beautiful. I once had this image come to mind as I just started to figure out what this healing journey was about. I saw this huge wall. It had all these switches, and each switch was like connected to a light. And I could see that of this wall of the mind of my being, that some of the switches were on and the light was on, but then some of the switches were not, and the light was dark. And I realized that was just a symbol of my own inner being. That the places that I hadn't switched on were just emotions I hadn't let myself feel yet. I hadn't allowed myself to move through. Or old beliefs that I was holding on to and not permitting myself to question them or to challenge them. And I had such a rush of joy actually seeing this image, because I knew what I was to do. And it was to find every dark switch in my whole being and flip it so that the light went on. I've been doing it ever since. And that's what we want to do. And we want this to just be like our deepest joy. And it's a joyful thing. Why? Because it leads us to deeper and deeper experiences of joy. It leads us into the joy that we are, because all of this light, all of the light when it's flipped on, is happiness, is love, is connection, is our true being. We don't really, the truth of us doesn't want any dark switches, any dark parts within our being. But again, it takes a decision. It is really just a decision. I want to look at that dark switch. And usually it doesn't feel so good as we make that decision. Because the fear comes up all of a sudden, the doubt, the uncertainty. Do I really want to, is this really helpful? I don't know. These sorts of fearful thoughts come in. But every time we actually do it, we face the fear, we look at it, we offer it to Holy Spirit. We say, please, I want to release this because I want the happiness that's on the other side of it. We actually come into that openness. We come into more joy. These experiences fortify us for the next switch that comes, the next dark thing that shows up for us to look at. We're strengthened with each miracle that we choose. Sometimes we talk about vicious circles or negative kind of cycles that, these ego patterns that play out. They seem to be so strong at times. But choosing miracles, choosing a right mind is its own has its own momentum, has its own uplifting, joyful momentum that builds. It's fun. If you ever had like a tire, just a loose tire, or you could spin it down the road. You could just take it with, and then you'd want to run after that tire and you want to keep spinning it, right? Keep it rolling. It's like that. The healing path is like that. What happens if you don't kind of go after the tire and keep it spinning? Well, it's just going to fall over. It's going to stop. It's not that big of a deal, right? What do? Well, we just pick it up again and we spin it, we roll it again. Kind of play with it, have fun with it. But after some more and more of doing this, actually we never want to let that tire stop spinning. We just want to spin with the joy of our being. And then that has a sort of gravity to it. And just like a top, when you spin a top, it has its own sort of way of behaving. It's different than kind of how a lot of things operate. It has its own center of gravity, that it has its own stability. It's a very kind of interesting thing, you know. The spinning top actually kind of holds itself stable. Well, the healing journey is like that too. When we are spinning into awakening, we're spinning into our right mind. There's a stability that comes. A wobbly top will actually find balance, find its horizontal, her vertical connection. And that's what we want. That's what we want to do. We want to come more and more into that alignment. We want to let that inner desire to awaken be like a centrifuge of goodness. Centrifuge is kind of also like that. That sort of spins things apart. If there's an impurity in some liquid, you can use a centrifuge, very high rate of spin, and it'll spin all of the fear out of it. It'll spin all of the dirty, bits out into the corners and away from what's helpful. So we're spinning up some goodness here tonight. There's times where I've been at an event, or maybe it's been some music playing and people dancing, and I sometimes have gotten this prompt to spin, just in place, to just spin around. And I've let myself just allow that. And I'll just start spinning to the music, spin and spin and spin. And when I allow it, when I really just let it happen, I could spin for minutes, many minutes, and just sometimes even quite fast, just spinning, but spinning in the state of presence with spirit. I think maybe I was a whirling dervish in a past life or something. I don't know, but it's a really interesting experience, because there's this aspect to it, which is that if I'm spinning and allowing this state of truly being present, and all of a sudden I start to think about spinning, about this dance of in place, I get less present. I get less in the flow of it. That it really has to be from a place of completely surrendering to the experience. And then it just lasts as long as it will. And then when it winds down, it just winds down. But we can allow our sort of spiritual impulses to joyfully spin us, or joyfully take us from one step to the next to the next. And the less we kind of try to analyze it or think about it or have a story about it, the more that we can just follow the gentle inspirations that flow, the gentle nudges that weave us down the path. So what is it that's trying to spin you? What impulse are you feeling? Maybe you're allowing it, but maybe you're afraid of it. Maybe you're doubting it. Maybe you're avoiding it. But maybe you don't have to. And there were times when this impulse would come up, and I would have like a thought, well, I'm not sure I want to do that. If I was in a room with other people, what will they think? But I learned to not worry about that. I learned to let those thoughts go, because the joy of the experience was its own reward. And I knew from people saying after the fact, or just kind of in their knowing, I knew that it was a gift, not just to me. It was a gift to anyone who wanted to kind of feel that flow. I've always liked these sort of free flow dance experiences. And I remember one from years and years ago where I really just let myself get lost in the song that was playing. And it was interesting because there was hardly anyone on the dance floor. I was like maybe like four people dancing or something. And I didn't care. I really did not care. And I just let myself feel whatever impulse I felt in that moment. And I knew it could have looked strange or, unusual or I don't know, but I didn't let myself go there. I didn't let my mind go into those thoughts. And at the end of the song, someone came up to me and he was deeply moved. I could feel it. He was so moved at how willing I was just to allow and just be totally in the moment. He joined me in that experience of being in the moment, because these experiences of being in the moment are not an individual thing. They're not a separated thing. We're actually allowing ourselves to feel the flow of the divine through us. And maybe we can experience that in song, making music. Oftentimes people experience it in a creative flow, like artwork but there's all kinds of ways to experience this divine presence as we move through our days and our lives. And we can practice actually welcoming that more and more and more. We can practice that all the time, actually. It's divine flow of inspiration, gently leading us from one step into the next. Life becomes a dance. Dance has many steps. This isn't some dance move that you learn and repeat just out of rote. This is guided, flowing inspiration, moment by moment. And in couples dance, there's a lead and there's a follow. Traditionally, the man was the lead and the woman is the follow. But now anyone can be the lead and anyone can be the follow. We want to be the follow. We want to take Jesus's hand, to take Holy Spirit's hand. Let him be the lead. All of our life can be a dance with Jesus, a dance with joy, a dance with love. Why not? Why do we want anything else? It's like Jesus always has his hand out. Come, let's dance. Come dance with me. Maybe we've been the reluctant wallflower. Maybe we've not been certain. But what a joy it is to say yes. What a joy it is to take that outstretched hand and see where it goes. See where it leads us. See what unfolds in this dance of love. For a time, I was into kind of taking dance lessons and was with a partner who loved it. So we went and, I'm sure I've forgotten more than I've learned at this point, but there's a real joy to kind of learning the steps. But the real joy didn't come in like learning the steps of a dance move. It came in the phase where I started to know the steps so well that I didn't have to be the one really choosing or deciding, that a flow just arose. And then it was just fun. If we look at our lives in this lens, we can see there are parts of our life that we are very willing to be guided. Jesus, guide me in this part of my life. I want to know what is in the highest good in this area. But then we can also see there are some parts we're not so sure about. Some things we want to kind of decide for ourselves. And I assure you, those are the parts of your life that are causing you the most misery. I think you probably know that too. But every moment is an opportunity to hand more of that over. And to realize you don't want to just hand more of it over, you want to hand it all over. I think sometimes we think that if we hand it all over, then we don't have any control. Well, I'm not the one deciding then anymore. I'm not in charge of anything in my life. How can I feel okay? How can I feel, good about what's happening if I don't have any control over what's unfolding? And it's actually the opposite. It's such a joy to not have to decide anything. When I look back at the life that Barret tried to figure out, oof, that was not so good. There were a lot of dead ends, a lot of needless pain and suffering, a lot of heartbreak, a lot of tears and misery, a lot of judgment, a lot of victimhood. Wow. When I felt like I was Barret the most intensely in my life, wow, those were the worst times of my life. But more and more I go, the more I realize it's not so. I don't have to believe in this character that I seem to be playing out. The really good actors, they get into their roles, but they don't believe that's who they are. They don't end the day of acting and still think that they're that character they've been playing. No, they set it aside. They remember who they really are, but they have a good time playing that role. Well, I'm here to tell you that this person you think you've been is just a role that you're playing. It's not the truth of who you are. And if you can catch that, if you can see that, if you can remember this role is not the truth of who I am, what happens? Well, everything gets dialed down like a number of notches. Whatever is at an intensity of 10 on the dial, okay, maybe it's just a 2 now or a 1. I had this other experience a number of years ago where I was driving down the highway, and all of a sudden the whole world became two-dimensional. It was like everything I was experiencing was like a paper cutout. It was still moving. It was like a paper cutout animation, paper cutout of the sky, paper cutout of the hills, paper cutout of my hands and the steering wheel in the car. And it was still just unfolding. A 2D made up experience. And you know what I experienced along with that? I had such a huge relief because it I so deeply experienced that everything, anything at all in my entire life that I'd been worried about, I did not need to worry. I absolutely did not. Why? Because it was all just being made up. The whole world was make believe. There's absolutely no substance to it, no depth to anything that I'd ever experienced that I was experiencing that moment. And I cried tears of joy as I was having this 2D paper cutout experience. I was so, so happy, so grateful. I didn't I didn't need to worry about anything. Literally, I didn't need to worry about anything. Now, it doesn't mean I never worried about anything again after the experience ended and life resumed and the ego crept back in at times, but that experience has never left me. That the memory and the feeling of it, even as I share it again now, I can feel the deep, deep, deep relief. Amazing. If you could imagine every worry, every concern you'd ever had on a plate, on maybe there's a huge platter, maybe you've got a lot of worries. But if you could just imagine that falling away, the plate like dropping, dropping away into like emptiness, and it's gone. It's gone because it never had any real substance at all. I mean, that was a joyful time, a joyful experience, a joyful recognition of actually what's going on here. We think because the world is 3D that it's really happening, but it's not. Now, of course, we still have to deal with the things that happen in our experience here. We still have to allow the experiences and the feelings that come up around all of what unfolds. But if you can take even a tiny fragment of what I'm talking about here and allow it in, it's for you. Like over the years, I've gotten a few of these like mind blowing experiences, mind shifting, mind releasing experiences. Some years after that first one, I was meditating. It's just kneeling on the floor and meditating. And as I opened my eyes, I could see the floor in front of me in the room undulating, moving like waves. And my first impulse was to actually like shake my head, shake myself out of it. But before I did that, I got like a helpful thought, which is, no, just let this happen. And so I just stayed there, kneeling on the floor, watching the seemingly solid floor undulate like waves. With exactly the same deeper message from that first experience, which is this is not a real world you're experiencing, Barret. This story that seems to be unfolding is not what it seems. The seeming solidity that it has is only due to your false belief in it. It's like each of these experiences, like, could just feel like a big piece of the belief in the reality of this world melting away, falling away, dissolving. I guess I'm just going to keep sharing this because, yeah, I had another experience just a couple of years ago where I was looking out the window of our place we were in, not too far from here. All of a sudden, the mountains on the horizon, they just like turned to like children, like they were made out of children's blocks, like a tower of children's blocks, and I could just see the blocks tumbling away. And I could just feel that. I could feel that in everything, just the unreal, fake nature of this seemingly solid physical experience, this whole world. So we can just let this hit you in whatever way it lands, let this in to the extent that you are open. Because these kinds of experiences, maybe you've already had experiences like this, but if you haven't, they'll come. These recognitions are on their way to you. The reason the movie The Matrix was such a hit was because it told a truth. It said that the world you're experiencing is not true. I got a thumbs up for that. It's beautiful. But even if most of the people who saw the movie didn't really get that part of the movie was actually the case, some part of them was ready for it. And we are ready for that message. We are ready for that message that we want to leave the matrix. We want to leave the world of illusions. Well, how do we do that? We do it by questioning our beliefs. And you can probably see how this whole thing is very interwoven. Because if you have an anger about something or against someone, you can be really, really sure that you believe this world is real. You can be 100% sure that you think that whatever it is you're upset about actually happened or is happening or will happen, whatever is causing the upset. But this is like pulling the rug out from under the ego. This is why we don't need to go through every last bit of ego fear and release it little piece by little piece, because we can just pull the whole rug out that the ego's been standing on. And the rug, what is it? It's just the statement, I am apart from God. No, it's not true. It's never been true. It can't be true. You can believe it, but it doesn't make it true. So what do? We work with the upset. We work with the very practical thing that's showing up in our life. And we allow the emotions, and then we remember these deeper metaphysical messages around it. And every time we practice, every time we forgive a situation or a person, a grievance in our mind, it's like we're taking a thread out of the rug. The rug is getting less and less strong, the rug that the ego is standing on. Maybe we can even think of it like the rug is getting smaller and smaller till the ego doesn't have much to stand on anymore. Until that point where we literally do pull that rug out from underneath the ego. We pull that last belief in separation out of our mind. And that's how we leave the matrix. Beautiful culmination of that movie was the main character, Neo, remembering, realizing that none of it was what it appeared to be. It was all just made up. He could see what was behind the form. And we're learning to see what is behind the form. What is behind the form is a belief that we are apart from our Creator. And we just get less and less interested in believing that. It just doesn't appeal to us the way that it once did. And why would the separation appeal to us? Because it seems to reinforce our belief in being a separate person. But even that, we start to question. There's that beautiful workbook lesson. I want the peace of God. I want the peace of God. Well, in the beginning, it's not clear to us that to say, I want the peace of God, is actually the same as I want to let go of the belief that I'm a separate person. But eventually we do see that. We start to get that. That's what this is about. To experience the peace of God is a relinquishment of all separation. We just say thank you. Each time an opportunity to heal comes up, each time another issue presents itself, we actually know what we want to use it for. Let me use this to remember the peace that is within my mind, the peace that dwells in God. And then piece by piece, the ego falls away until at some point, there's just nothing left. I remember earlier on my spiritual path when I'd started to learn about healing and was looking at different kind of healing methods. There was one teaching that said that the healing journey never ends. The healing journey never ends. Your kind of ego gets lighter and lighter, but it never ends. And I'm like, oh my God, the ego never ends. That sounds like horrible. That's a belief in hell right there. But then I got into the course and I realized, oh, whew, okay, this is going to finish. There is an end to healing because we're healing something that's not true. All of the ego's misery, all of the ego's suffering, all of the ego's pain, it's not real. So it has to end because at some point we come back to the truth. I was going to say we come back to our senses, but we actually release our senses. We release the belief that there's something apart from us that can be sensed. So this is a noble pursuit. It's really a profound gift to give this desire, this dedication, to heal this, to heal that, to heal everything. To leave no stone unturned within our mind. That feels joyful to me. It's a worthy endeavor. So I just feel this kind of image of spinning again, like a spinning top. We get the top spinning fast enough and it finds alignment. We get our dedication to forgiveness going enough and we find an alignment in our experience. So I think for tonight, I don't really feel the nudge to have expressions or sharings. I think it's just this message of letting ourselves go into that inner helpful practice. And there's some types of tops, they'll spin and you can actually just kind of keep them spinning and keep it spinning, keep it going. Keep the momentum going. So I just want to express my deep and profound love for each and every one of you. Yeah. Even those who might be seeing this later on, there's so much love in my heart. And my prayer is to keep the forgiveness spinning in your heart. Keep choosing it when the ego tries to creep in. Yeah, you're worthy of it. Well, yeah, love you all. We'll see you again sometime soon.